Good morning. Today I am out, so you are going to use the video. Reminder, you can always stop, pause, fast forward, rewind, and I can answer any questions you have tomorrow. So here are the homework answers from last night's. Remember, in order for it to be an excluded value, it has to make the denominator 0. So in this case, the denominator is x minus 3. Therefore, x equals 3 will make that 0. Here's the graph for 20. Again, it's a hyperbola, but we have a word problem. Therefore, we're only considering the positive x values. Here are your graphs to 22, 24, and 26. Recall you should always label your asymptotes. So here my asymptote is y equals 0, is the horizontal. Pen good night. And x equals 0. And then down here, my two asymptotes are y equals 3. And then x equals 0. Typing them. My pen isn't writing very well. Those are kind of hard to see, so let's change the color on those. Sorry about this delay. But it's important to make sure that you change, or that you label your asymptotes always. You can label the function that you graph by just writing it above the situation. Here they wrote the asymptotes for you. Okay, so again, you're going to make a table on your calculator. Next, I want you to do these problems without using your calculator. I am going to do them as well. So the first thing I would do is I notice that 7 is a factor of 35. So I can write 35 as 5 times 7. And then I'm dividing 7 by 7, so those divide out. I can write 36 as 6 times 6. And I can write 12 as 2 times 6. That's a funny looking 2. And then I can divide out 6 and 6. And I am not done, because 6 can be written as 3 times 2. 3 times 2. And the 2's divide out. So then in my numerator, I have 1, because I divided everything out. And in the denominator, I have 5 times 3. So my answer is 1/15. I can do similar situation when I am dividing. But what do I need to do first when I'm dividing? We call it skip, flip, multiply, some of you. We multiply by the reciprocal, so it's 15 22nds times 11/15. Or, I'm sorry, 11/5, I misspoke. Now when I flip that, I can then see that 5 goes into 15 3 times. And what I'm doing in my head there is writing 15 as 5 times 3, dividing out the 5s. 11 goes into 22 twice, and again I'm writing 22 as 2 times 11, dividing out the 11s. And my answer is 3/2, or 1.5. Why is this important? Well, because now what we are going to start doing today is we are going to multiply and divide rational expressions. So we reviewed our rules for fractions because they follow the same rules. However, we now have variables everywhere. So multiplying rational expressions for a, b, c, and d, where b and d cannot be 0 because they're in the denominator, I multiply straight across. I can still divide out by common factors. So examples. Steps actually first. Multiply rational expressions. Factor everything, always. We're going to divide out common factors and multiply straight across. So I want you to try each example, come back and see how I do it. So the first example, the first thing we need to do is factor that denominator. So when I factor that denominator, I am going to, instead of n squared plus 2n minus 8, that factored is factors of negative 8 that add to be positive 2 are positive 4 and negative 2. So it's n plus 4 times n minus 2. Take 3. So now I have an n plus 4 in the numerator and denominator. So those can divide out. I cannot ever, ever, ever separate this n from that minus 2. So I cannot divide out those n's because this n is not a factor. N minus 2 is the factor. N squared, however, is n times n. So if I want to think of n squared as n times n, these n's are factors, so I can factor one n out with this n. And then what I have left is 1 in the numerator over n times n minus 2. And actually, let me type that. It's going to work better if I type that denominator. So it is n times n minus 2. And that's all under 1. So it's 1 over n times n minus 2. Here, I don't have polynomials in each factor, but I can still think of 8 is a factor times x squared. X squared divides out because there's 1 in the numerator and denominator. 8 divides into 16 twice. 3 divides into 3. So my answer is x over 2. Okay, down here again I have to factor. So I'm going to start by factoring y cubed. Oops. Hold up, sorry, that should be y squared. Let me fix it. Let's just fix it. That should be y squared. So first I'm going to factor y squared minus 3y minus 4. So I'm looking for factors of negative 4 that add to be negative 3. Well, that's negative 4 and positive 1. So this factors to be y minus 4, y plus 1. I don't know why that type there is still there. And then y plus 5, I can't factor that. That y and 5 are glued together. This y and 5 are glued together. This can be factored. There's a GCF of y, so it's y, parentheses, y minus 4. Now again, I'm looking for factors. So, y plus 5, I can pretend that all things with a plus sign are in a parenthesis. So this y plus 5 and this y plus 5 are factors, so they divide out. Y minus 4 and y minus 4, they divide out. So I'm left with y plus 1 over y. I cannot divide out those y's because this y in the numerator is glued by this plus sign to that plus 1. So the answer is y plus 1 over y. Dividing. Same rules as dividing fractions. Dividing rational expressions lets a, b, and c be polynomials where none of them can be 0. I first skip, flip, multiply, and then multiply straight across. Steps are the exact same thing, except for I'm adding multiply by the reciprocal, or skip, flip, multiply. Factor, divide common factors, multiply. Examples. So I have 4d minus 8 over 2d minus 6 divided by 2d minus 4 over d minus 4. The first thing I want to do is I want to skip, flip, multiply that. So actually I'm going to use the equation option here. I'm going to retype that as skip, flip, multiply. So I have 4d minus 8 over 2d minus 6, and I am going to multiply that use the star. I want to use the multiplication sign, but I want to use the x. What do I want to use? I'll use the star. And then I'm going to flip the second fraction there. D minus 4 over 2d minus 4. Okay, I want you to always do that as a separate step than your factoring. Because if you try to do that and factoring at the same time, you're going to forget something. Now I am going to factor. So here I can factor out the 4. So that gives me 4 times d minus 2. The denominator, I can factor out the 2. So that gives me 2 d minus 3. Over here, that's d minus 4. I can't do anything there. But here I can do a 2 and get 2 times d minus 2. So now I look for common factors. So I have a d minus 2 and a d minus 2, and that's it. So my answer is 4 parentheses d minus 4 over 2 parentheses d minus 3. But am I done? Well, I cannot do the d's, because the d in the numerator is glued to that minus 4. The d in the denominator is glued to that minus 3. 2 and 4 are, however, factors, so I can divide 2 into 4 2 times. And then it's 2d minus 4 over d minus 3, or 2d minus 8 over d minus 3. You do these two, and come back, and I'll have the answers. So pause.